The girl's name is Xiaowan, and she works in a company sales department. She pulls so much overtime every day, you'd think she's running the whole department by herself. But her hard work and the reward she gets, not even in the same zip code. After grinding there for 6 years, she's still stuck in the exact same spot, just a lowly assistant taking orders from the new hires. Just like any other day, the second the clock struck quitting time, everyone bailed, leaving the office totally empty. An exhausted Xiaowan was just about to treat herself to a piece of chocolate when the HR manager walked up and told her to pack her stuff and head home immediately, because Xiaowan had already maxed out her overtime quota for the month. Over by the elevators, she bumped into manager DC. The total opposite of Xiaowan, DC always clocks out right on the dot. Xiaowan thinks to herself, what kind of leader is this guy? He doesn't set an example for his team at all. Meanwhile, DC thinks Xiaowan is a total weirdo. He can't figure out why she works like an absolute maniac. It really baffles Xiaowan because DC never used to be like this. 6 years ago, when she first joined, DC was the one who trained her. He was super gentle and would stay late working right alongside her. But ever since he switched departments, he turned into this strict 9 to 5, out the door kind of guy. The next day at the company party, the two of them ended up sitting next to each other. At first, they just gave each other the cold shoulder and kept knocking back beers. 1, 2, 3. By the time 50 cups of beer were down the hatch, Xiaowan was totally wasted. She slammed her hand on the table and went off on DC. You're trash. You don't even know how to work alongside your own co-workers. DC fired right back. Working overtime doesn't mean you're working hard. People like you who can't finish their work during regular office hours are the real trash. They got into such a massive shouting match that even their co-workers trying to calm them down was totally useless. Even after the party wrapped up, Xiaowan was still ranting and mumbling. And then, instead of heading to their own homes, the two of them booked a hotel room. And let's just say, DC spent the whole night running a nuclear test on Xiaowan. The next morning, when Xiaowan opened her eyes, she saw DC lying right next to her. She suddenly remembered how active and wild her performance was last night. She was dying of embarrassment. Without waking him up, she quietly slipped away on tiptoes. Back home, she was full of regrets. Why did I do this with DC, the guy I hate the absolute most? But the truth is, last night's experience was incredible. She was actually starting to like him. Was she falling for DC? The more she thought about it, the bigger her smile got. Heading into the office, she couldn't hide the glow on her face. Right then, as if fate was listening, DC stood right in front of her. But what he said threw a bucket of cold water on Xiaowan's hopes. We're both adults. Without me even saying it, you probably get what I mean, right? Turns out, he's the biggest scumbag on earth. Xiaowan sat in the office, totally fuming. Did DC take advantage of her? But because she was pretty proactive herself last night, she couldn't really call him out on it. At quitting time, another assistant, Sansun, handed her a contract and said she had to bounce for a family dinner. So could Xiaowan handle it for her? Terrified of the HR manager catching her doing overtime, Xiaowan shoved the contract in her bag so she could finish it at home. But as luck would have it, she ran into DC right on her way out. Seeing her love-hate partner, Xiaowan's legs turned to jelly and she was about to trip, but DC caught her in his arms. Just as Xiaowan was getting lost staring at his handsome face, DC spoke up. According to the rules, you can't take office contracts outside the building. I'll let it slide this time, but in return, you have to come back to my place with me. Xiaowan's imagination instantly started running wild all over again. Xiaowan got to his place and laid down on the bed. But DC totally played her. He only brought her over to get work done. Xiaowan's mood instantly tanked. If he just wanted me to work, he should have just said so straight up. They were working away when suddenly, Sansun dropped a photo from a concert into the company group chat and instantly deleted it. Xiaowan's mood was completely ruined. DC placed a bowl of tomato soup in front of her and said, "You haven't eaten a thing all day. Have a little and get your energy up." While eating, tears started rolling down Xiaowan's face. Sansun was her best workie, her closest friend at the office. So why did she lie and take advantage of her? Even if she had just told the truth about wanting to go to the concert, Xiaowan wouldn't have said no. Thinking about it just made her feel awful. Right then, DC gently rubbed Xiaowan's head and said, "You're so naive. Anyone else would be absolutely furious right now, but instead, you're just sad." Seeing so much affection from DC made Xiaowan secretly thrilled. It had gotten super late, and there weren't any trains left to take her home anyway. As soon as she laid down on the bed, Xiaowan's mind started racing all over again. If he lives alone, why did he buy such a massive bed? Does he bring new girls back here every single day? Suddenly, DC reached his hand out toward her. Xiaoan looked at him, totally surprised, and DC said, looking a bit awkward, "You're exhausted, let's just get some sleep." Xiaoan made up her mind right then and there that she wasn't going to let anything happen, otherwise their relationship was going to get way too complicated. But that firm resolve didn't even last 2 seconds. Xiaoan suddenly sat bolt upright and said, "Actually, I was on the volleyball team in high school and college. So, I've got a ton of stamina. It's just like they say, once you dive into an adult relationship, it's hard to pull yourself out." Tonight, Xiaoan was in a seriously proactive mood. This time around, she took total control and had DC dancing to her tune all night long. By morning, DC was completely tamed and acting like the perfect boyfriend. He whipped up a delicious breakfast for her and wiped her lips super affectionately. Xiaoan was totally swooning over him. But then suddenly, she started stressing about what exactly their relationship was. What exactly are we? Our relationship? Isn't it super obvious? Xiaoan had no clue that DC was actually a pretty reserved guy. After she left, DC started muttering to himself. Saying it out loud is just so embarrassing. We just got into a relationship. We're lovers. He even picked up the pajamas Xiaoan wore and totally zoned out daydreaming. On the flip side, Sansan apologized to Xiaoan for lying the day before, but her face didn't show a single ounce of guilt. Instead, she threw shade, saying, "You're just the yes girl Xiaoan who agrees to everything anyway, right?" During their lunch break, Xiaoan overheard some co-workers gossiping about her. They were saying, as long as Xiaoan is in the sales department, we're golden. Just dump whatever work is left on her. That's how we get to clock out on time every day. It hit Xiaoan that everyone was totally taking advantage of her kindness. Feeling bummed out, she went back to her desk only to find that Sansan had messed up her work again. Sansan asked for help once more. Xiaoan really wasn't feeling it, but she literally didn't know how to say no, so she agreed again. After hustling all day, she barely finished the work at the last minute. Sansan finally realized her mistake and gave a genuine apology, getting their friendship back on track. Meanwhile, when DC heard about Xiaoan's yes girl nickname, he got a little insecure. If some other guy asked her out on a date, would she just say yes to him too? No way that's happening. As soon as work ended, he waited for Xiaoan by the gate. They went for a stroll by the river. DC totally picked up on what was stressing Xiaoan out. He gently rubbed her head and said, "Your inability to say no isn't a weakness. You only say yes when you genuinely want to help someone out. It's the same with me, right?" Then, seeing his window of opportunity, he thought about asking Xiaoan out to dinner. After dinner, we'll hit up that park where you can see the sunset. We'll hold hands and walk around, just like a brand new couple on a date. But Xiaoan shut him down. No, she couldn't go anywhere today. She was heading straight home. She didn't want to be the kind of girl who just comes running the second he calls. To put herself on his level, she went home and started learning how to cook, but flavor-wise, she wasn't even in the same league as DC. On the flip side, getting rejected totally broke DC's brain. He hopped on his laptop and hammered out a list of 22 reasons why Xiaoan said no. Reason number 1. Maybe she's just wiped out? Because the night of the party they argued, then had their little throwdown. And last night Xiaoan completely wore him out. From 7:30 p.m. straight through to midnight, DC wrote down 22 different possibilities, only to cross every single one out. Finally, he jotted down a 23rd reason. Poor me. She dumped me, and now my life is officially over. The next day at the office, Xiaoan noticed that everyone else actually had hobbies, while she was the only one working like an absolute maniac. Her boss sent her out to deliver a file and told her she could just head straight home afterward. Finding herself off the clock early for the very first time, Xiaoan stood on the street wondering what on earth to do. Then she figured she'd hit up the shopping district and try to find herself some sparkling new hobby. Xiaoan wandered around for an hour, but nothing really caught her eye. She wasn't in the mood to head home alone, so she plopped down on a street bench to people watch. Just then, some street creep walked up to her and said, "Hey beautiful, all alone. If you're bored, let's go hang out somewhere." He grabbed Xiaoan's wrist and started pulling her, while people walking by completely ignored what was happening. Suddenly, a strong hand clamped down on the creep's wrist. It was DC. One look at his intimidating boss mode aura, and the punk chickened out and ran for the hills. Xiaoan asked, "Office hours are over. How come you haven't headed home yet?" He lied and said he was pulling overtime today. But the truth was, he'd been out looking for Xiaoan the whole time. Out of nowhere, DC straight up asked Xiaoan out on a date. But Xiaoan felt like she didn't even have any hobbies, and that she was way too boring to even deserve someone like DC. But DC told her, Are you kidding me? How could someone who works hard enough to become a corporate slave ever be boring? Looking at DC's hand, Shawan thought, this is exactly the moment I've been waiting for. But right then, DC grabbed her hand and started leading her straight toward a love hotel. Shawan's head started spinning all over again. Weren't we supposed to go on a proper date? Then why are we at a hotel? Does this mean we're just gonna stay fighting partners forever? Taking one look at the love hotel, Shawan jerked her hand away, made up an excuse about being super busy today, and tried to bail. But DC grabbed her hand and kept pulling her along. However, things didn't go at all the way Shawan thought they would. DC actually took her to a dishware shop right behind the hotel. Poor Shawan was stressing out for absolutely nothing. This guy just came here to buy cups. After grabbing the cups, DC announced it was time for their next stop. And where was the next stop? DC's place. As soon as they got there, DC turned into a 5-star chef. His muscles, those popping veins, his long fingers. To Shawan, every single part of his body looked absolutely perfect. In no time, a mouth-watering meal was on the table. Shawan took one bite and couldn't stop showering him with compliments. DC smiled to himself, thinking, the plan is going perfectly. The day before, while writing out that 23rd reason, DC had actually cooked up a 3-step master plan. Asterisk start officially dating Shawan. Asterisk win her heart through her stomach. Asterisk the most important part. Take her safely home after dinner and strictly avoid any fighting action. They both agreed to keep things under control today, but the very next second, another throwdown broke out. And this fighting wasn't going to stop that easily. The next day, Shawan showed up at DC's place again with absolute rock-solid resolve that nothing was going down tonight. The second the clock ran out, she got up to head out. But DC stopped her again. He had baked a French apple tart for her the night before. Shawan totally got the wrong idea again. When DC went to open the fridge, she jumped up to make a run for it. She completely bolted. DC tried to hold her back. In the middle of their little tug of war, a massive pile of coffee cans came crashing down. Seeing all that coffee, a bewildered Shawan asked, if you don't even drink it, why did you buy so much? Blushing, DC spilled the beans. He bought them all those times he was waiting for Shawan downstairs at the office. Every time the elevator came down and Shawan wasn't in it, he'd buy another can. Waiting specifically for you like that, it feels a little awkward for us adults, you know? It finally clicked for Shawan why she kept coincidentally bumping into DC every single day. She looked up at him with these totally innocent eyes, and DC pulled her into a massive hug. Looks like another throwdown is definitely guaranteed for tonight. But now they've got a brand new headache to deal with. Office romances are strictly against company policy. So, DC came up with 2 new ground rules. Asterisk no going out on dates in public so their coworkers don't catch them. Asterisk absolutely 0 PDA, public displays of affection, inside the office. One day, Shawan and DC's hearts finally synced up. DC dusted off his old camping gear and invited Shawan to go out into the great outdoors with him the following weekend. But thanks to her hardcore, overtime instinct, Shawan instantly shot him down. Next week is the start of a brand new month. My overtime counter resets, which means I can grind through the weekend all over again. Now that excuse was just total garbage. The next day, DC completely lost his appetite for lunch. He made another list of reasons why Shawan would reject him. First up, does she just not like him? But that couldn't possibly be true, because the night before, when he was about to drop her off, Shawan was the one practically begging to stay. I'm so incredibly happy being your girlfriend. So, scratch the first reason. Second, does she hate camping? No, that can't be it either, because she straight up said she'd love to try camping at least once. This definitely means something else is going on. After chewing on it for a while, DC landed on his final conclusion. To her, work was just straight up more important than love. When quitting time rolled around, DC headed over to the vending machine like he always did. He suddenly remembered that Shawan was absolutely going to be pulling overtime today. Then, right on cue, Shawan stepped out of the elevator. DC totally panicked and hid. He was going crazy over how adorable she was. He decided he needed to come up with a brand new plan, something that mattered more to her than her job. Meanwhile, Shawan dragged herself back into the office looking totally bummed out because she didn't spot DC. Because of him, she started doing her own research. The manager hates overtime, and I absolutely love it. That must mean DC doesn't like me. Back at his place, DC was plotting out his master plan. 2 hours later, Shawan got a text from him. Work is important, but make sure you take care of your health. Complete with a giant cheer up emoji. Shawan's exhaustion instantly vanished, and she happily booked it out the door. The next day, Shawan made up her mind that she was clocking out right on time and going over to have a throwdown with with DC. But fate had other plans. A massive project landed on her department's desk, and the whole team ended up having to pull overtime for an entire week straight. Shawan hadn't seen DC in 10 days, and she was missing him like crazy. Then, a dinner text from DC came through. A totally exhausted Shawan channeled her inner Sailor Moon and swore she was gonna finish this work and go see her baby DC. DC even took a half day off for this date and cooked up a super special meal at home. Thanks to everyone busting their butts at the office, the work actually got done on time. But just as Shawan was about to head out, she realized an important file had been left behind. She grabbed it and took off to deliver it herself. But 10 straight days of exhaustion finally broke her. She took a spill on the street, scraped her knee, and, worst of all, the bottle of wine she'd brought for their date shattered into pieces. A crying Shawan got back to her place and just slumped down on the floor. Sobbing, she texted DC that she wouldn't be able to make it tonight. He's gonna be so mad. He's gonna absolutely hate me. Paralyzed by that fear, Shawan literally fell asleep right there on the floor. Who knows how much time passed before the doorbell finally rang. She opened the door, and there was DC. He gently cupped her head and asked what had happened. Seeing his handsome face, Shawan completely lost her words. All she could do was keep mumbling, sorry. But then DC hit her with some questions. Do you want to work even harder for the company? Yes. Do you want a rock-solid, healthy body? Yes. Do you want to be a true corporate slave? Yes, I do. Well, if you want to be a perfectly healthy corporate slave, then you need to move in with me. So that was DC's master plan all along. If he couldn't change Shawan's mindset, he was just gonna support her every step of the way. Are we going to move in together? Thanks for the tip. I'll keep that in mind from now on. You're acting all cool on the outside, but your legs are literally shaking right now. Just then, a subordinate walked in carrying 2 cups of piping hot coffee. DC was so lost in his own head that he took a massive gulp. Ouch. The poor guy totally burned his tongue. While the subordinate was kneeling down trying to wipe off DC's pants, Sanson walked in. From her angle, the whole scene looked incredibly awkward and weirdly romantic. After work that night, Shawan came home, handed DC the empty bento box, and went to change her clothes. Seeing her wet hair, DC started overthinking. Did she just toss the celery out? Or even worse, did she and Baidao eat it together? Just thinking about it made DC's blood boil. At dinner, DC nervously asked how the bento was and told her to let him know if there was anything she didn't like. But Shawan said the food was out of this world and she hadn't left a single crumb. The truth is, Shawan feels like even if there's a veggie she absolutely hates, if DC cooked it, she'd happily eat it up. While chatting, it came up that Shawan actually hates mint-scented shampoo, but she never mentioned it before because she thought the manager liked it. DC was absolutely thrilled that Shawan was finally sharing her preferences with him. The two of them snuggled up on the couch and started picking out a brand new shampoo together. DC was secretly on cloud 9. They were gazing deeply into each other's eyes when suddenly, Shawan got a work text on her phone. She had to go out of town on a business trip with Baidao for a project. DC's face instantly dropped, but since it was work-related, he couldn't exactly object. He stomped off toward the bedroom in a huff. Tonight, I absolutely have to have a massive throwdown action with Shawan. After the throwdown, DC went to sleep feeling super proud, thinking to himself that poor Baidao, he'd never even get the chance to fight with Shawan. But then, in her sleep, Shawan started mumbling about Baidao. That totally killed DC's sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, a red-eyed DC said goodbye to Shawan. He spent the entire day imagining what Baidao and Shawan were doing alone together. Are those two using the exact same shampoo in Hakone right now? Meanwhile, the second Baidao saw Shawan, he poured his heart out to her. He begged for a chance to date her, but Shawan's heart was already completely full of DC. She very sweetly turned him down, changed the subject, and got right back to work. That night after the client meeting, to avoid having to hang out with Baidao, Shawan made up an excuse about feeling sick and headed back to her room. Without DC there, she was feeling a little lonely. She thought to herself, I just need to get through today, and tomorrow when I get back, I'm gonna get double the compensation, love, from DC. Right then, a text came through from Baidao. I'm heading to your room right now. Wait for me. What the heck is Baidao doing coming over here in the middle of the night? And how is Shawan supposed to handle a completely wasted Baidao? I can't just make a huge decision like this so easily. But even while saying that, she completely caved and ended up at his place anyway. DC had whipped up a special late-night snack for her. Even though it was just a simple bowl of porridge, to Shawan, It tasted like a straight-up 7-star meal. On such a special day, they definitely needed to celebrate by having a little throwdown action. DC sat by the bed looking at Shawan with his eyes closed and said, "Looks like you're totally exhausted today. Even though I really want to fight, I'm not gonna waste your corporate slave stamina." And just like that, their official live-in life kicked off. The next morning, DC handed her a heart-shaped bento box and told her not to forget to eat lunch. Oh, and by the way, she didn't need to call him manager at home anymore. When Shawan got to the office, she saw that Baidao was back. He was a massive workaholic, exactly like Shawan. But what Shawan didn't realize was that Baidao actually had a huge crush on her. While she was working, someone suddenly patted her head. She totally thought it was DC, but when she turned around, it was Baidao. Just as the two of them were happily chatting away, DC walked right between them holding a file. His men's intuition immediately set off alarm bells that something was up. DC shot Baidao a death glare and walked off. At lunch, DC overheard some co-workers gossiping. Shawan and Baidao are totally the best match. They're both massive corporate slaves. Long distance only makes the heart grow fonder. Something's definitely gonna happen between them soon. Hearing that made DC's blood absolutely boil. That afternoon, a reporter showed up to interview Shawan and Baidao. DC, who was basically a 40-year-old uncle now and absolutely not taking any chances when it came to romance, showed up to supervise. The reporter straight up asked if they had any old stories from their struggle days. The two of them immediately remembered one. Back in the day, the manager used to be called the gang leader. They pulled so much overtime trying to hit his targets that they missed the last train. So they'd wait for the first morning train at Gijuro, a pub. Meaning, they spent the whole night together? And yeah, Shawan would cry so much after drinking. Hearing that was the last straw for DC, and he totally slammed his hand down on the table. He was burning with jealousy seeing those two getting so close. The two men were practically shooting daggers at each other, but totally oblivious Shawan didn't catch on at all. She just thought to herself, why is the manager so angry? When she got home that night, there was dinner made by DC on the table and a note. It said, "Thanks for your hard work. Heat it at 500 W for 2 minutes and 20 seconds, or 700 W for 1 minute and 40 seconds. Make sure you only eat it after heating it in the microwave." Shawan checked to make sure DC was asleep, and then happily started eating. Meanwhile, back in the bedroom, DC was absolutely agonizing. The next day at lunch, DC was daydreaming about eating his bento with Shawan. Right then, Baidao walked up carrying a file. Seeing DC's bento, Baidao's face completely dropped. He mocked DC, pointing out that he didn't even know what kind of food Shawan liked. Plus, he was way older, a 40-year-old dude. Baidao openly threw down the gauntlet, claiming that he was Shawan's true soulmate. Meanwhile, DC's mind was racing a mile a minute. He was going absolutely crazy. With completely bad intentions, Baidao showed up knocking at Shawan's door. Terrified he was going to make a massive scene, Shawan dragged him out to the garden. Standing there with a totally creepy, obsessed look on his face, Baidao said, "Shawan, you look so incredibly sexy in those pajamas." Shawan was totally grossed out and pissed off. She said, "You've had way too much to drink tonight. Whatever it is, we can talk about it tomorrow," and made a break for her room. But Baidao grabbed her wrist and yanked her back. "Tonight is my chance to make you mine. Starting today, you are my woman." But the second Baidao caught a whiff of the minty scent from Shawan's hair, he backed off. He had smelled that exact same scent on DC just a few days ago. That meant a throwdown had already gone down between them. Still, the stubborn Baidao refused to throw in the towel and pitched his case again. He tried to get in her head, saying, "DC doesn't care about you. If he did, he'd never send you on a solo trip with another guy." Hearing that, Shawan calmly replied, "The truth is, I like you too." But right before she could finish her sentence, DC's voice rang out from behind them. DC only caught the first half of what she said and immediately thought Shawan was cheating on him. He turned around to storm off in a rage, but Baidao stopped him in his tracks. He told Shawan to go pack her bags. While Shawan was packing her stuff, Baidao explained to DC that things absolutely weren't what they looked like. Shawan's like was strictly in the friend zone. But the look on Baidao's face made one thing crystal clear. But I'm not giving up that easily. Whether it's in business or in love, the real battle only starts after your first rejection. Sometime later, DC and Shawan were waiting at the bus stop. DC was so embarrassed about losing his temper that he couldn't even look Shawan in the eye. Muttering, I'm feeling sleepy." He totally dodged the conversation. The very next night, while pulling overtime, Shawan got a text from DC. "We're having dinner together tonight. No matter how late it gets, I'm going to wait for you." Shawan's energy skyrocketed. She powered through her work at lightning speed and bolted home. But when she opened the door, it was pitch black inside. Suddenly, pop, a party popper went off. It was Shawan's birthday. She had been grinding so hard at work that she totally forgot it herself. But DC remembered. Shawan was so touched by the surprise that she got super emotional and told DC, "This is easily the best 29th birthday of my entire life." She was just soaking up all that happiness when DC suddenly turned dead serious and dropped a bomb. He wanted to end their live-in arrangement. He straight up told her he needed some rest and recovery. The next morning when Shawan woke up, it finally hit her that this was actually happening. She counted on her fingers. "We only fought, had action, like 7 times a day. How did DC baby get worn out so fast?" You know what they say, when you're unlucky in love, your career is about to take a nosedive too. As soon as she got to the office, her boss dropped the good news that Shawan had been promoted to department manager. For anyone else, this would be like hitting the jackpot. But for a hardcore workaholic like Shawan, it felt like a prison sentence. Becoming a manager meant she couldn't grind on the front lines like a maniac anymore. She literally begged the HR manager to demote her back to assistant, but the manager flat out refused. "This position was tailor-made just for you." Shawan just sat at her desk. Everyone else was busting their butts, and she was just sitting there twiddling her thumbs. When her senior walked by, Shawan thought she was finally getting some work, but he just told her, "If you don't have anything to do, just head home early." Back at her place, Shawan tried to eat a piece of cake, but stopped after just one bite. "I didn't even break a sweat today. How do I deserve to eat such a delicious cake?" Right then, Baidao called, and the two of them went out for drinks. After throwing back a few drinks, Shawan started crying and asked Baidao if she could ever win the manager's heart back. Hearing this, Baidao realized they had officially broken up. He shot his shot once again, but Shawan instantly shot him down. Then Baidao dropped some serious advice on her. "If the company made you manager, there's got to be a reason. Think about what you can actually do for the company from that position." It finally clicked for Shawan. The next day, she rolled out a brand new game plan. She divided up the tasks for the assistants herself and started passing down her 7 years of grinding experience to everyone, speeding up their workflows so nobody had to pull overtime anymore. Everyone's hard work paid off, and overtime gradually became a thing of the past. Shawan even hit up the HR manager to request raises across the board since the team was crushing it so efficiently now. Then she asked the million-dollar question, why was she promoted in the first place? Turns out, it was all DC's doing. He had told management that she was the only one who could pull this off. Shawan asked why DC, who used to be an absolute rock star in sales, had suddenly transferred over to administration general affairs. Come to find out, before Shawan, DC had an employee under him named Genjin, who was so inspired by DC that he worked day and night. Even when DC told him to pump the brakes, he didn't stop, and eventually, the heavy workload caused him to have a total breakdown. DC felt incredibly guilty. When Shawan showed up, DC saw a shadow of Genjin in her. To save Shawan, he voluntarily stepped away from the sales floor, just so she wouldn't see him and work herself to the bone trying to match his energy. For 7 whole years, DC had been secretly protecting her behind the scenes. Learning the truth brought tears to Shawan's eyes, and she immediately booked it toward DC's place. But right as she pulled up to the bottom of his building, a government alert blared on her phone. An unknown contagious disease is spreading. Do not leave your home unless it is an absolute emergency. At that exact same moment, DC got the message too. He was still in shock when he heard Shawan yelling from downstairs. But Shawan's shouting didn't bring DC out. It brought out a slim, neighborhood Karen. "Hey girl, what is wrong with you? You're so pretty, but you have zero common sense. We're on lockdown and you're out here screaming." The two of them had just started going at it when DC showed up and broke them up. Everyone figured Shawan was about to drop an emotional confession, but instead, she dropped a total bomb. "I absolutely hate you." Both DC and the neighbor lady were totally stunned. The truth was, Shawan was pissed off that DC had been making decisions for her all by himself. She wasn't so fragile that she'd just break. And after all these years, why didn't he just tell her the truth? DC, being the experienced 40-year-old uncle that he is, handled the situation like a pro and pulled Shawan into a massive hug. After that, the lockdown hit and work from home became the new normal. Over a video call, DC pitched the live-in idea again. He told her he could balance work and his personal life now, and this time everything would go smoothly. He was even working out at home every day, building up his abs so that when they finally saw each other, he could give Xiaowan the best experience ever. But Xiaowan shot him down. Even though she really wanted to, she was terrified she wouldn't be able to control herself and might literally fight DC half to death again. DC suddenly remembered Xiaowan's insane stamina and physically shuddered. He instantly changed the subject, saying, "All right, when this pandemic is over, we'll go camping." In the blink of an eye, 6 months flew by, life started getting back to normal, and the office finally reopened. Everyone was super pumped to see each other again. But that happiness didn't last long. Thanks to the pandemic, business had completely tanked. Partner companies were going under, and their own company was taking massive losses. The next day, a notice went out about business downsizing and personnel adjustments. In plain English, layoffs. Dead silence fell over the office. The HR manager made an announcement. "Given the current situation, we've made some changes. Let me introduce the newest member of our sales department." Suddenly, DC walked in. Xiaowan was totally shell-shocked. He had cooked up a master plan to save the company from going under. First off, he picked Baidao so the two of them could team up and meet with a massive, old-school client. Word on the street was that this client was looking for a new supplier. This was literally the company's last hope. But Xiaowan was stressing out a bit. She figured that putting these two guys together was absolutely going to cause some trouble. But against all odds, their teamwork was completely flawless. They won over that incredibly tough client with total ease. At the victory party, everyone was singing DC's praises, but DC handed all the credit straight over to Baidao. Signing this hotel contract was only possible because of Baidao. I was totally blown away by his negotiation style. Best of all, he takes real pride in our company's products. And for a salesman, that is the most important thing. Hearing DC say that made Baidao super emotional. All the bad blood between them was completely wiped out. The very next day, DC handed Xiaowan a brand new project, leading the e-commerce team. The idea was that people who were stuck at home because of the pandemic could still get that luxurious hotel-like experience. Xiaowan suddenly remembered that this was the exact same pitch she had given DC 6 years ago. DC still remembered it to this day. Xiaowan was so touched that she worked her absolute heart out, and the online sales became a massive smash hit. The company was saved from going under, and everyone's jobs were totally secure. One day, Baidao invited Xiaowan out for drinks at their old hangout spot, a local bar. When the two of them got a little buzzed, Baidao gathered up his courage and said, "I really hate saying this, but I finally accepted that DC is the best guy for you." He told her that on their business trip, DC talked about absolutely nothing but Xiaowan. "You need to hear all this straight from the horse's mouth," Baidao said, sending her on her way. Lost in old memories all over again, Xiaowan sprinted toward DC. The second she saw him, she poured her heart out. DC told her the real reason why she works so hard. "You grind this hard because you aren't scared of a challenge. You want to use your work to better yourself." But DC also told her to leave a little breathing room, space, in between her work. Otherwise, she'd burn out, and that would totally break his heart. "You are my breathing room, relief. Because I have you by my side, I can face every single challenge head on." They both completely laid their hearts bare. Their love was so deep they felt like starting a throwdown right there on the street. A few months later, DC said goodbye to the sales department and transferred back to administration, general affairs. But before clocking out, he announced in front of the whole team that he and Xiaowan were getting married. The whole office got super awkward for a second, but then everyone burst out laughing and congratulated them. "Are you serious? The whole office has known about you two hooking up forever." The next day, the two of them grabbed their gear and headed off into the woods. For the next few days, they left marks of their throwdowns in every single corner of that forest. The manager totally changed my perspective. The on-time clock-out manager DC and the corporate slave, me. We've officially said goodbye to our messy, confusing love life. From now on, in both our careers and our romance, we're gonna have an absolutely massive harvest.